toxic masculinity.
New census data may give Republicans the House.
Okay, this is an interesting story. It's something I hadn't heard about. I mean, it just came out yesterday, I guess. But so we've got the census data back, and I actually thought that it was going to show like Democrats gaining, because Democrats are like, oh, there's so many immigrants that are coming into like various places that, you know, that we're going to get more representation. But the problem, I think, now, so here's the thing. Well, I'll read some of the stuff in this story, but so this is from the New York Times. If you count up all these negative ones and plus ones and, you know, and plus two for Texas and all this kind of stuff, and you think about which of these states is Republican state and which of these states is a Democrat state, what it looks like is Republicans are going to gain three congressmen and gain 3 electoral votes, and Democrats are going to lose 3 congressmen and lose 3 electoral votes based on the makeup of the states. But the problem with that is that congressmen aren't nominated by the entire state. Congressmen are nominated by districts. So it's possible that even in a Republican state, you'll get a Democrat district, and so they'll gain a congressman, but they'll gain like a Democrat congressman. And the same could be true in a Democrat state. So it all depends on how they draw their district lines. Now, obviously, Republicans are going to try to draw districting lines in such a way that it benefits Republicans and gives them more, representatives. But there is a concern that if you make the margins too slim, so like let's say you make a particular district 51% Republican and 49% Democrat, that in a couple of years, if the demographics shift, that'll become a Democrat district. So they're saying that, well, maybe they won't. Maybe they won't what they call gerrymander it quite as much as we think they will. But we'll have to see. But anyway, this is a great article here at the New York Times. I don't usually advocate for the New York Times, but it is a great article. Has a lot of data here because this isn't really a partisan issue, what the census showed. It just shows kind of what the demographic shifts are. And what's really fascinating about this is that, as you might have suspected, people are just leaving Democrat states like crazy. And where are they moving? Republican states. Shocker, I know. But the problem with that, I mean, there's a few exceptions like Oregon. There's a lot of people are moving to Oregon because Oregon, Oregon's like, I constantly talk about Oregon as like one of the most beautiful places in the world. And people just think Oregon, what is there, trees? Yeah, it's a big forest, but it's a stunningly beautiful place, and people just don't realize how amazing it is. And that's why it's so sad that it's run by Democrats. But anyway, you can see here the different state breakdowns. This is Florida here. This is Texas over time gaining delegates and stuff, or gaining congressmen and whatnot. And here's California, and California has finally started to lose population. This is the first time.
I'm surprised because I remember when a census were here in California, the mayor himself was going around town and giving all of those forms to the people.
And here's what's really shocking, and this is something that I wanted to mention at the beginning here.
They're like, don't be afraid. We need you. We need to count you.
Well, because they're talking about immigrants, right? So here's the thing. Illegal immigrants were counted in the census. Donald Trump was trying to get them to not count illegal immigrants, because why should you get more representatives in a state in which much of your state consists of Mexican citizens? That doesn't make any sense, right? They're not here illegally. So because you let a bunch of people sneak into your state illegally, they weren't provided citizenship by the U.S. government, because they live in your state, you get more representation? That's completely insane. And yet, for whatever reason, the courts struck down Donald Trump's attempt to stop the census from counting illegal immigrants. Now, you can count illegal immigrants, but count them as illegal immigrants. Don't count them as just members of the population. That's ridiculous. Why don't we just count rocks as members of the population? They're not citizens either. Or horses. Oh, look, there's a horse there. We're going to count that as a citizen. I'm sure Democrats do those kind of dirty tricks all the time. But if we're counting citizens who actually vote and need representation, then I actually think, and if we were only counting citizens, I actually think we would have had even more representation in Congress, and the Democrats would have had fewer
Wait, you talking
representatives.
about citizens or legal immigrants also?
Legal immigrants are
Do you have
citizens.
to count you count them as citizens?
Oh, you mean because there's a time when you start to immigrate and when your immigration is over. Well, I think that those people shouldn't get representation either. You should still count them in the census, but they should be distinguished from the citizens who get to vote.
I think legal immigrants have to have representation. Legal.
But you have to go through a process.
You have Social Security, you pay taxes, you have to have representation. The only difference between me and you, I cannot vote.
That's actually fair because you're paying a lot of taxes. And we are paying, by the way, a lot of taxes.
Like every check that I get, minus 35%, Chris.
No, but not just that. I mean, we just did our taxes and it's painful, folks. Let me tell you, I am in pain right now. I am literally like wounded. Well, literally, figuratively. Not literally.
Your friend texted me something. I think that's because you...
Kurt?
Didn't respond.
All right. What is he writing? Oh, is he watching?
I guess.
He says the Biden tax plan is stupidity. An attempt to collapse. It's an attempt to collapse the economy. If you're gonna text me in the middle of the show, spell things correctly. All right. Let's see here. He says he'll be sent to his room without milk of magnesia. That's my buddy Kurt. Now you know why he's my best friend, because he's hilarious, even if he presents me with some typos during my show. Yeah, so I do think that if they hadn't counted the illegal immigrants, there would be a lot more representation for Republicans and a lot less representation for Democrats in Washington. And by the way, okay, so there's one more thing that I would like to say about how unfair the census was. This was conducted primarily in April of 2020, right? That's when it was due for everybody to go ahead and fill out their census form. They had other stuff. They would go door to door and check out, how many people there were and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, most of the census was taken care of in April. Somebody writing you? Would you like to share with the class, darling?
Just about my job for tomorrow.
Okay. She's dealing
Important.
with yeah. But here's the other thing, right? So a lot of people moved. After April. Like between April and November when we voted for president, a ton of people shifted states. A ton of people moved because of COVID restrictions. People were basically sick and tired of the mess that Democrats were making in Los Angeles and San Francisco and San Diego. Well, not so much San Diego, but Portland, Washington State, Seattle, in New York City. I mean, so many people moved out of New York City. And so this idea that, there was all this movement from Democrat regions to Republican regions, that was true when they took the census, but it was even more true when we voted in November. Mm-hmm. And who knows what the election would have turned out like, even with the Democrat finagling of the election. Even with that, we still might have won had the census shift, been more accurate. It's really a shame that the census was taken in April of 2015 before a lot of the demographic shifts happened, before a lot of people moved. Now, Democrats are saying now that actually this demographic shift may be a good thing, even though Republican states are getting a lot of new representation, and we do get more electoral votes as well, which is why I'm talking about the election, the presidential election. But a lot of Democrats are saying, well, the people that are moving from Democrat states to Republican states are Democrats, so they're actually turning these red states blue. Let me just say this. This is totally false. Okay, for two reasons. One, yeah, you do get some Democrats moving from Democrat states, but you're getting a lot of conservatives moving from Democrat states to Republican areas. And part of the reason is because if you're a Democrat and you live in a Democrat state, even if you see it getting destroyed around you, a lot of Democrats are saying, no, this is a good thing. They're doing the right thing. This is good. This is right. Democrats are good. Because these Democrats, they aren't able to see that they're wrong, right? A lot of people, they get embedded with these ideas that they're right, and they really, really, really don't want to believe that they're wrong. You know, if you've been arguing with your Republican friends for years, Democrats are right, Democrats are right, Democrats are right, and then your Democrats are in power in your city and are destroying your city, you go, Democrats are still right, Democrats are still right. A lot of people refuse to see the truth because they so want to be right. And so a lot of these people will stay in the city despite the fact that it's a hellhole because they want to be right. They want to believe that they're right. And it's the Republicans going, screw this, we are done with it. And they're leaving, right? We're planning on leaving. We've been trying to figure it out for a while now. But certainly there are some Democrats that have had it as well. But think about it like this. The Democrats who've had it, the Democrats are like, let's go to a better place. They're the ones who are probably a little bit more open to recognizing that maybe Democrats aren't right all the time. And they're going to be in a state that is mostly Republican. And even if they live in a Democrat region, they're going to have to face the reality that not all Republicans are these evil right-wing, white supremacists or whatever they think. Because they're going to be moving out of like Manhattan where everybody thinks that, and they're going to be moving to somewhere like, Austin, Texas, and they're going to run into people who are really great people, and they're going to be interacting with them, and it's sort of like, just as regular folks. And then eventually they're going to find out, oh, you're a Republican? That's weird. I thought all Republicans were evil. And they're just going to have to face the reality that Republicans aren't all just these evil white supremacists, and that will change people. So this idea that, it's just Democrats moving to red states and turning them blue, this is absolute baloney from Democrats. The truth is, bad policies in the big cities by Democrats are pushing people both out of the city and out of the Democrat Party. That's what's happening in America right now. How will this affect 2022? Here's what I think. I have thought for a long time already that 2022 is going to be a massacre of the Democrats. The Democrats are just going to get killed in terms of the votes, in terms of how people are going to vote, because even those Democrats who were excited to try to get Trump out of office, they no longer have Trump to hate anymore. So the apathy that existed in 2020 for Joe Biden is going to be even more pronounced in 2022, because is Biden an exciting candidate? Certainly not. The only hope the Democrats have for 2022 is cheating on a massive scale. Do we think that the Democrats are capable of such a thing? Oh, I don't know. It's an interesting question. What do you think, darling? Well, what's the deal? Why aren't you speaking? You do realize that this is an audio-visual medium.
I understand.
Sorry, man. Getting her to talk sometimes is like pulling teeth. I swear to God. All right.
That's true.
Okay, so
You don't like me talking.
I do like you talking. I just don't like you disagreeing with me about stupid things. Okay. I don't know. Look, 2022, I've always thought should be a landslide for Republicans. Now with this new data, I think that it's very, very likely that Republicans would win even without a landslide voting. I'm curious to see exactly how many seats we're going to pick up in Congress, in the House of Representatives. I think we're certainly going to win the Senate, but that's only if the election is fair. Who knows if the election is okay? So the reason you're not speaking is because you want to contradict me and say I don't think the election will be fair. That's your time. That's okay. You can say that. That's a totally reasonable thing.
I don't want to be beaten up after live stream.
Beaten up. You're gonna get me into trouble, dude.
See, it's starting.
I'm an abusive husband. Okay. Oh, don't throw it at the cat. You're gonna wake him up. Okay. So look, this gives me a lot more hope about 2022 and here's why. Because even if the Democrats decide to cheat in 2022, which I think they probably will, we have so much of a tsunami of Republican votes right now, including what's going on with the census data. We have so much of an opportunity to win here that I think it'll just be really hard for them to do what they want to do. That's my take on it. Anything?
We'll see.
Okay. All right. All right. Darling, I think we have one story left.
Yeah.
Why do
I
you
don't
look
know.
all digitally? What did I do?
FISA court.
Okay, FISA court.
FISA court says the FBI repeatedly violated rules.
Yeah, this is interesting. So I didn't actually have a chance to read this news article before we did the show. So this is actually going to be news. The cat's playing with a little bottle cap that I threw at Valeria. I didn't actually get the chance to read this before, so this is going to be fascinating to me as well. FISA court says FBI repeatedly violated rules meant to protect privacy. Let's have a look here. The FBI again repeatedly violated rules meant to protect privacy of Americans' privacy, according to the secretive federal court that made public its latest ruling slamming the Bureau's continued misconduct. And so the reason why this is critical, or the reason I wanted to read this story, Toxic Masculinity, weekdays, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific.